Hello, everyone. This is Mrs. Finney recording a lesson for 7th grade math at Red Wing High School. This is the lesson 3-2 notes video and follows along with student workbooks, lesson 3-2, page 170. Math 7 students, if you have not gotten your workbook and a pencil out yet, please make sure to pause the video and get your workbook open to page 170 because these note videos only help you if you are following along and writing them down along with me. So this builds on our concept number 11 from our critical concepts and standards for 7th grade math, using unit rates and proportions to solve problems. So I'm going to jump right in to the try it problem on the bottom of page 170. In the 3-1 video, we were working to multiply and divide to get our unit rate. Now we're actually going to kind of start working in reverse, and extra step, we're going to connect back and use our skills from concept 9, multiplying and dividing fractions. So Sergio increases his target speed to 30 miles per hour. How many more miles does Sergio need to ride in a quarter of an hour to achieve this target? So notice now we're starting with 30 miles per hour. And to turn 1 into 1/4, we need to divide by 4. Whatever we do on the bottom of our proportion, we have to do in the top, which means we're going to take 30 divided by 4. Let's see, 4 goes into 30 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. And that leaves me with 2 left over. And you might remember from in class, I reminded you that you can check it. And so we end up with 7 2/4 miles, which is the same as 7 1/2. Okay. So in order to reach his goal, he has to ride 7.5 miles in a quarter of an hour or in 15 minutes. But now notice the question said how many more. So we need to move up, and we need to look at some prior knowledge here, and you'll notice in the example at the top of the page, he was only going 7 miles in a quarter of an hour, which means that he needs to go an additional half of a mile. So make sure that when you're reading word problems, it's not just about doing the division or simplifying the proportion, it's also about making sure we read and do every step of the problem. Pause the video if you need to fill in this example and read through the steps. I'd also encourage you to take a minute and think or talk out loud the convince me question. The more of that critical thinking you can do out loud for yourself, the better this material is going to stick and retain in your brain moving forward. And as you've noticed in almost every one of these lesson videos, I've referred to a previous content or a prior skill we've learned. Math just keeps coming back over and over again. So don't be afraid to go back and review or to stop and talk the math out loud. All right, we're going to turn in our workbook to the next page. For you, it should actually be open in front of you already, but we're on page 171. And here you'll notice an example where now we're working with fractions within fractions, but that's not new to us either because we saw and worked on breaking apart complex fractions in our concept 9, multiplying and dividing fractions. So let's look at the try it problem in the middle of our page 171. Every other weekend, Bronwyn's brother Daniel mows the lawn. He can mow 15,000 square feet in 3/4 of an hour. Who mows the lawn in less time? All right, so if we look at the first example, Bronwyn mows the lawn, and here they found out that Bronwyn could do 18,000 feet in 1 hour. So we want to figure out how many square feet can Daniel do in 1 hour. So if he can do 15,000 in 3/4 of an hour, What we want to know is how do we get this so that it is out of 1 hour? And to do that, we're actually going to divide these two things. So we're actually going to pull this back and we're going to use that same skill that we learned in Concept 9. I'm going to rewrite this complex fraction as a division problem. And I can write 15,000 as 15,000 over 1. Now, we can take and turn this into a multiplication problem because 15,000 over 1, we drop the first fraction, we flip the second fraction, and we multiply. Before I multiply this, I'm going to do some simplification. I know that 3 goes into 15 5 times. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. And 15,000 divided by 3 is going to become 5,000. Those zeros stay and the 15 divided by 3 becomes 5. Now when I multiply my fractions, 5,000 times 4 becomes 20,000. Uh-oh, I ran off my page. Let's rewrite that. Becomes 20,000 over 1. So Bronwyn could do 18,000 in an hour. Daniel can do 20,000 in an hour. Who's faster? Daniel is. He can do more in 1 hour, which means he would get through the job faster. All right, let's look at one more example. Make sure that you pause and take the time to read through example 3, where they have work written out for you and they talk about how you can think about dividing to simplify. And let's look at the try it problem on the bottom of page 171. Sonoma bikes 5 miles to Paige's house. On a map, they measure that distance as 5/6 of a centimeter. The same map shows that the mall is 3.5 centimeters from Paige's house. What is the actual distance between Paige's house and the mall? All right, so this is going to be a two-stepper. So first, I know that 5 miles is equivalent to 5/6 of a centimeter. I want to know how many, I want to get this down so that there's a denominator of 1 in the bottom. I want to know how many miles is 1 centimeter. So I'm going to multiply by 6/5. Okay, I'm using what I know from division and I'm connecting it here to say, well, I can get rid of that bottom number by multiplying by the reciprocal. Whatever I do in the bottom, I have to do on the top. So I'm going to multiply by 6/5 on the top as well. 5 times 6 is 30. 6 times 5 is 30. And 30 divided by 30 is 1. So there's my unit rate in the bottom. Now I'm going to multiply my top by 6/5. 5 times 6 is 30. And 30 divided by 5 is 6. So this tells me that 6 miles equals 1 centimeter. Now I want to know how many miles is 3.5 centimeters. Okay. How many miles is 3.5 centimeters? Well, to turn 1 into 3.5, I would need to multiply by 3.5. And I'm going to think of 3.5 as 3.1 because I want to use my calculator to do that decimal. Whatever I do in the bottom, I have to do to the top. Just like we practiced with our in-class examples. 6 times 3.5 tells me that there are 21 miles if my distance on my map is 3.5 centimeters. Okay, so you should already have some notes and examples from our live in-class session on page 172 that will also help you be able to set up a proportion and either divide down to the unit rate or multiply up to an intended rate that you want to solve.